the Honorable Timothy and Kaine.
President, members of the General Assembly. 2008 has already been a challenging year and a remarkable year for this body. We have wrestled with a national economic slowdown that has reduced state revenues, forcing us to make tough choices about cuts and reductions in state and local government programs. But we have not let our short-term challenges block our progress toward better Virginia. Working together, Democrat and Republican, House and Senate, legislative and executive, we've transformed the delivery of mental health services, advanced an ambitious effort to improve our service to troubled youth through the foster care system, and agreed upon the most significant investment, capital investment in higher education in Virginia's history. This focus, our focus on measurable progress, even in challenging times, recently led Governing Magazine to recognize Virginia once again as the top performing state government in America. But we know that there remains an important issue still before us in 2008, an issue that calls upon our best thinking to find common ground and move forward. We must find reliable investments for a 21st century transportation network in our commonwealth. We worked hard to find that solution for many years, but definitive action has eluded us. The special session that I've called today gives us the opportunity to get this right. Starting just 10 days after my election in November 2005, I've traveled around the state and talked to thousands of Virginians about transportation. In fact, just since you adjourned signing back on March 13th, I've conducted 20 town hall meetings in every corner of Virginia and talked to numerous business groups, gatherings of local elected officials, public safety organizations, and most importantly, everyday people in every corner of the Commonwealth. Let me tell you something that everyone in this chamber already knows. Citizens and businesses believe that our current transportation network isn't meeting their needs. They're correct, and they expect us to do something about it. I've heard from frustrated commuters from Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads whose quality of life deteriorates as they spend hours sitting in traffic. Parents missing family dinners and soccer games, businesses that move goods and services on the road network that can't set reliable work schedules, firefighters and EMTs who race to fires, accidents, and health emergencies, losing precious time as congestion blocks their paths, and working families already struggling with the price of gas bill frustrations rise when a short commute turns into hours of stopping the traffic while the gas burns out their tanks. According to the 2007 annual Urban Mobility Report done by the Texas Transportation Institute in Northern Virginia, 81% of travelers are trapped in congestion during their drive to work. I got to be 19%. I've never found it. Those who wait in congestion at 81% waste more than a 2-week vacation every year. In Hampton Roads, congestion costs taxpayers $467 million each year in lost time and fuel costs. And the problem is getting worse, much worse. I heard from people who want more public transportation options, commuters, senior citizens, the disabled. They're frustrated that we aren't doing a better job of fighting roads so that it doesn't make traffic worse. In rural Virginia, citizens are waiting for new roads that will help bring jobs to revive their local economies. All the economic development deals I work on, and nearly every project requires a state financial commitment to land a prospect or expand an existing business. We don't do economic development deals in rural Virginia without having transportation dollars to be put in. All Virginians care about basic safety issues. What will we do to maintain the state's nearly 20,000 bridges that have an average age now of over 47 years? How can we pave rural dirt roads that school buses navigate if the state's unpaid road fund keeps being reduced. As you all know from our annual budget, we have experienced a deficit in road maintenance funding every fiscal year since 2002. This coming fiscal year, the maintenance fund will be short by nearly $400 million, and if we do nothing, that shortfall will grow to nearly $600 million in the next 6 years. I've heard from business groups that are concerned about the impact a crumbling transportation infrastructure will have on our state's economic competitiveness. For example, Dulles Airport and the Port of Virginia are directly or indirectly responsible for an estimated 375,000 jobs and $895 million of state revenue, nearly 6% of our state's general fund budget. They are our two most valuable connections to a global economy, but they depend upon a network that will allow easy movement of people, goods, and services to and from these critical transportation modes. Local elected officials that I speak to are worried about the dramatic reductions in Virginia's road construction as they see needed local improvements canceled or pushed into the distant future. I'm sure many of you saw this just last week. The Commonwealth Transportation Board, as part of their annual revisions of the 6-year plan, announced that nearly 600 projects across the state, many already underway, have been dropped from the 6-year plan, stopped, or delayed indefinitely. These projects affect every community in the county. At a town hall meeting in Hopewell last week with some local officials, one Southside supervisor told me, "Governor, the state's 6-year plan is becoming a 60-year plan." Many are worried that with all the focus on traffic congestion in the two most sizable metropolitan areas, their rural regions' transportation needs might be forgotten. As of today, the elected representatives of 55 cities, counties, and towns have passed resolutions asking us to solve this problem and to solve it now. In fact, I was just on the phone with representatives of 2 more jurisdictions, Chesterfield County and Henry County, saying that they expect to pass resolutions in the next 48 hours. In addition to these 55 local governments around the Commonwealth, more than 40 other organizations, VNL, VACO, First Cities, AARP, the Virginia Business Council, the Virginia Chamber of Commerce, and many local chambers have added their voices in support of immediate action for transportation. Each of these groups is concerned, as we all in this room are, about increasing taxes at a time when the economy has created serious challenges for Virginians. But in these 20 town hall meetings and in numerous discussions with business groups and others, I have heard again and again from Virginians that they understand how desperately we need to invest in our transportation network. They understand that we can't grow our way out of a tough economy with declining infrastructure. Virginians, I'm happy to say, are responsible people. They don't demand a free lunch. Our constituents are open to a moderate and reasonable plan to raise the revenues we need. They appreciate the economic stimulus that road and rail construction can bring during a challenged economy. So it's clear that the problem is real, it's significant, and it's growing. Our public expects us to act. The vast majority of you acknowledge the need for a transportation solution, and you've taken steps to address it. After an extended regular session and 2 special sessions in 2006 produced no meaningful advance on the problem, both houses passed House Bill 3202 in 2007 by strong margins. That bill contained significant land use reforms, regional packages of taxes and fees to provide congestion relief in Northern Virginia Hampton roads, dedicated funding for public transit, and a bond package for new road infrastructure. While the land use reforms, public transit investment, and bond package remain viable, the biggest injection of reliable new revenues in House Bill 3202, the regional packages, was struck down by the Virginia Supreme Court in February. This created a gap of nearly $500 million annually in these 2 regions' plans for finding congestion relief. And we abandoned last year's decision to rely on civil abuse fees to fill the growing maintenance gap, leaving that deficit lagging every day. Finally, the slowing economy and changes in driving habits due to gas prices have further reduced existing transportation revenues. Since we just acted in 2007 to solve these financing problems, there is no reason that we should not act right now to make sure that the promised regional relief materializes and that our maintenance problem is solved. In fact, a failure to act is essentially backtracking on the commitment that we made last year to truly address this issue. That's why I proposed a simple three-part plan 6 weeks ago, a plan that addresses these needs and does so with some of the very same revenue sources that you identified and were willing to support just 1 year ago. It's not perfect. No is. But it addresses the basic needs of our citizens and our system, and it puts us on a path to solve the transportation challenges that has festered for over 2 decades. The plan is simple, it's sustainable, and it's statewide. My first step is to fix the maintenance deficit. We can do it by raising the annual vehicle registration fee by $10 and increasing the sales tax on automobiles in 2 steps, phased-in steps, from 3% to 4%. These increases are modest. Our auto title tax after the raise would still be significantly less than the national average. And both houses voted in an overwhelming manner for these identical taxes and fees as part of the now defunct regional packages in House Bill 34. My second step is to fix the regional packages by imposing 1% regional sales tax on goods other than food, medicine, or automobiles in Northern Virginia. This is a different approach than the regional plans last year. It's easier to collect, but it produces essentially the same amount for regional projects in these 2 critical regions. Projects that will be chosen and financed at a local level with these revenues. Why do I propose a regional sales tax? I have followed discussions by the regional delegations, and I believe this approach, discussed with approval by Democratic and Republican legislators in both areas, is a good idea. This approach has also been received warmly by the local elected officials in these 2 important regions. Finally, the third step to my plan builds upon last year's important land use and public transit reforms to promote change in transportation going forward. I think we all have the sense sitting in the room that the system of the future will not be the same system that we have in the past. We must invest more heavily in rail and public transit, carpool, teleworking, and other innovative strategies for enabling people to get where they need to go with less reliance on automobiles. We also need new industries and infrastructure to attract them to Virginia. Thus, I propose a transportation change fund for the piece of my plan, with 75% of the revenue going for these new transit strategies and 25% dedicated to projects that have direct tie to the economic development of the economy. I foresee that fund will have particular value for rural Virginia. This will be funded by a grantor's tax on property sale proceeds, 25 cents for each $100 sales value. As you'll recall, you overwhelmingly voted for a 40-cent grantor's tax increase as part of the strict regional packages in House Bill 3202. So, my plan fixes maintenance, addresses regional congestion, and positions us for a more balanced transportation future. It relies on 3 revenue sources that each House voted for just last year, and an additional source, regional sales taxes, that have been publicly discussed by many of you in recent weeks. Each of these revenue sources will expire if any of the funds are used for any purpose other than the advertised transportation use. Let me stress a point, and I can't stress this strongly enough, that I made when I introduced the plan on May 13th. This is a solid plan that gets the job done. But if you want to make improvements, amendments, changes, adjustments, I'll work cooperatively with you to do so, just as I worked cooperatively with you last year in House Bill 3202 came for this. Any who advance a legitimate proposal will find a friendly me willing to join in the solution to the state's needs. But none of us should tolerate inaction. Evasion of responsibility should not be a character trait of this model. We didn't become the best managed state in America and the best state for business in America by shirking our duties. We got to where we are by making hard choices and smart investments. As you wrestle with this bill And as you seek to propose your own solutions, let me offer a few thoughts based on conversations that I've had with you. First, some have suggested that the transportation needs of the Commonwealth need more study. Well, I think that's not. We know what we need to do. The citizens and businesses of the Commonwealth are begging for relief, and it's insensitive to people to suggest that we don't know their legitimate needs. In fact, the very action of this body in passing the bill just last year demonstrated that we were all aware of the recipe. Second, some argue that the primary relief is to be found in reforming the Look, we have to always look for ways to improve our agency's performance. That's what a best managed state does. That's why I championed a provision last year requiring VDOT to submit reports on its maintenance needs and other budget priorities to JLAR. In response to this requirement, VDOT has provided JLAR with a report dealing with the conditions of Virginia's roads and bridges, the agency's growing maintenance needs, workforce reductions, and our increasing reliance on private contractors. Let me share with you a few facts about today's VDOT. In fiscal year 2002, approximately 20% of Virginia's highway construction projects were delivered on time and 51% were delivered on budget. By the end of fiscal year 2007, VDOT successfully completed almost 90% of projects on time and on budget, exceeding its performance targets for the first time ever. This is a remarkable turnaround in 6 years. Since 2002 at VDOT, we've eliminated $867 million in project deficits. We've reduced the size of VDOT's workforce by nearly 2,000 people. And we've reduced the number of VDOT maintenance facilities statewide from 335 to 238. The agency has also been the subject of at least 8 audits and performance reviews by the Auditor of Public Accounts and JLAR since 2001. And VDOT has been evaluated by outside groups as well. The most recent report on the state highway system by the Reason Foundation. The Reason Foundation, as they indicate, their mission is to advance a free society by developing, applying, and promoting libertarian principles, including individual liberty, free markets, and the rule of law. Reason Foundation's nonpartisan public policy research promotes choice, competition, and a dynamic market economy as the foundation's review of dignity and progress. Their most recent review of every state's road and highway system contains a lot of information about Virginia and beyond. For example, we have the 3rd largest state-maintained road system in America. But on a per-mile basis, we have the 2nd lowest level of expenditures for construction and bridges in America. Road maintenance expenditures on a per-mile basis are significantly less than the national average. The administrative expenditures running VDOT are less than half the national average. And in fact, the entire VDOT administrative budget is more than $100 million less than the annual maintenance deficit they're experiencing right now. And when you put all that together, what the Reason Foundation says is that total road expenditures in Virginia on a per-mile basis are the 7th lowest in America. The foundation summarizes VDOT and our road system this way. This is their one-sentence summary that they give to every state. Here's what they say about Virginia. Virginia has good system condition and quality of roads managed on a thin budget. A prominent transportation commentator, Ed Orski, recently rendered this opinion about VDOT in his newsletter, Innovation Boost, focusing specifically on our progressive use of public-private financing. And I quote, the Commonwealth of Virginia and its Department of Transportation, VDOT, have long been recognized as being on the forefront of transportation innovation. The state's long-standing tradition of partnering with the private sector, its recent cutting-edge public-private venture to develop a network of off-lanes on the Capitol Beltway 995, its ambitious projects to reconstruct the Wilson Bridge and Springfield and Gainesville interchanges have clearly established VDOT's leadership as a bold and creative promise. So look, while we can all agree that a culture of continuous improvement and passion for efficiency every day must be our goal, the notion that VDOT is something that we can just kick around as an all-purpose excuse to do nothing, is transparent, and is irresponsible. We have come a long way, and it's performing at a high level on a thin budget. We're leaders in public-private partnerships, but we cannot avoid some fundamental laws of math. If we set the three largest revenue sources for transportation in Virginia, the gas tax, the auto title tax, and the general sales tax, significantly below the average levels in other states, we're going to have a substandard system. Some have suggested that what we need to do is only replace the revenue that House Bill 3202 dedicated to the two most congested regions in Virginia. Those regions are important, but if we don't address the maintenance deficit statewide, whatever funding we provide for Northern Virginia and Hampton roads will start to evaporate as soon as we can. In fiscal year 2009, the year that begins next week, $74 million of the $388 million maintenance deficit is money that we will divert from highway construction to maintenance out of the Northern Virginia construction. $80 million comes out of the Hampton roads construction projects. Those numbers will just continue to grow as the maintenance deficits become active. So without a maintenance fact, without a maintenance fix, the regional plans just don't do what they're advertised to do. And it's just as important. And I think I say this and express a feeling that all of you have. It's true. We can't perpetuate the notion that the needs of the rest of Virginia just aren't that important. Look, I've spoken all over the state in recent weeks, town hall meetings in Danville, Hopewell, Marion, Bradford, St. Fredericksburg, Chamber of Commerce visits in Winchester. And I've heard what folks have said in these regions that aren't part of Northern Virginia or Hampton Roads about their needs. I've read the resolutions from these 55 local governments, urban, suburban, and rural. The word from our public is clear. We need a statewide solution. Finally, I know that many of you support a constitutional lockbox for transportation funds, just as I do. But there's no reason to wait for the completion of the constitutional amendment process to fund transportation relief. The structure of my bill guarantees that all new revenues will only be used for transportation. And I pledge to amend any transportation revenue bill that gets to my desk to make sure that it complies with that same guarantee. We can take this protective step now while we begin the constitutional amendment process. In conclusion, what I propose to address Virginia's transportation funding needs are modest tax increases that keep our transportation taxes and our total tax burden significantly below our neighboring states. The proposal uses your ideas, your revenue sources from last year's legislation, and it also leverages public-private partnerships to ensure that we're using the most innovative financing methods available. We can solve this problem if we want to. Do we want to solve this problem? I sense the willingness is here to do it. We all come here to serve, but the reality is that other concerns begin to intrude on all of our thought processes. Concerns about electoral or caucus politics, concerns that a willingness to compromise might be frowned on or interpreted as weakness. If we let our actions be dictated by the insular concerns of Capitol Square, this problem could well be evaded until committed. But let's set our actions to a different standard. Let's set our actions to the standards that prevail outside Capitol Square, the standards of our citizens who sent us here to solve problems and get things done. In Virginia, we don't make our reputations if we don't improve our communities by delay or inaction. We rise and fall by results. In the words of Cervantes, who wrote something about telling windmills, and I hope the donkey is part of the ultimate transportation standard. Good actions ennoble us, and we are the children of our deeds. Good luck as we work together in the days ahead. Our action to solve Virginia's transportation crisis can be an ennoble accomplishment for the good of all our citizens. They are waiting. They deserve our best. Let's not let them